started Dead Air Live in November of '74, you know, Dead Air. And we said, yeah, we want to do it live, so hence the name Dead Air Live. What we did was take an image like this, move it around, just different crazy effects, anything went. And we got response from people like the show. You know, call in, and we had different people call in. One guy called the radio.
Dead Air Live expands your mind? It blows my mind.
Welcome to Dead Air Live. I'm Jean Flanagan, and
Good
we're
evening,
doing
and welcome to Dead Air
Old
Live.
is New Again. Or
Tonight's
is
show
New is Old Again.
Reviews of
well,
previous
part
attractions
of the history
and
of
80s
Dead Air Live and the
retrospective.
Somerville Producers Group is that we've been around for 35 plus years. And tonight we're going to look at 20 years ago, so we're looking at tapes from the late 1989 to early 1990. And here we are in the year 2010. Happy New Year, happy new decade, our second decade of the new millennium. So we're going to look at tapes because somehow the tapes remain timely, and we have some updated information on some of the tapes. So we're going to start with a tape about talking art from 1989, and Rhonda Richards doing a video, a documentary.
Time for God. You really spend a lot of time in there.
Do you enjoy that part of it as well?
That's actually the part I enjoy most.
Why?
Because I don't go out into the field with a lot of preconceptions. I go out and sort of throw a wide net and gather a lot of material. If I'm curious about it, if I think this person is good and has something to say, I put them on camera. Then once you're in the editing room, that's where you really start to create the film, or the film starts to take shape, and you see relationships between your ideas and some surprises, some things you didn't really know were there.
Right. Well, we're about to see a segment of a work in progress, and maybe you could describe to us what we're about to see.
Well, the film is, the working title is Bag Bomb, and it's about a 100-year-old cow product, or ointment, that they use to put on chapped and irritated cow udders. And people use it too, and they always have. If you lived in rural areas or on dairy farms, it's just something that was in the barn but also ended up in the family medicine cabinet. Because as people milked the cows, they realized that the ointment also had very healing effects on their hands. And they started using it for chapped hands and chapped lips, and from there it went into other deviations such as squeaky bed springs and waterproofing boots, etc. And in 1984, a writer for the New York Times wrote an article about this product, a quite lengthy one, and since that time he's actually been selling as much or more of the product to people than
who are not farmers and are nowhere near cows.
Right. So the scene that's coming up is actually a golf tournament that's held in just north of Seattle, Washington, and it's a group of people that are avid fans of this product, and they have a tournament that they host called the Bag Bomb Invitational Golf Tournament.
Well, let's go to that segment of Rhonda's work in progress called Bag Bomb.
You asked how this Bag Bomb Invitational Golf Tournament got started. Originally, about 1972, some years back, I had a whole house full of people that I didn't know what to do with. And I could imagine trying to entertain 20 adults for 3 extended days they nearly all golfed, and we got out in the golf course and played golf. And I was stuck with what to give them for a prize. So the grand prize for the best golfer all day was a 10-ounce can of Bag Bomb. After the person that received it was totally amazed and never seen such a thing, couldn't imagine what he was going to do with a can of grease, and it got to be so much fun that I decided to write to the Dairy Association Company in Vermont and tell them about our golf tournament, ask them if I could formally call it the Bag Bomb Tournament. We ended up having Mr. Norris not only endorse our tournament, but he comes out faithfully every year and plays in the tournament. We all enjoy his presence as much as we do Bag Bomb.
Well, it's a warm burn, huh? It's still going!
Everybody uses Bag Bomb for one thing or another. That's really the spirit of the whole thing, that they all use it, they enjoy it as a vehicle to get together.
One day I had a burn, one day I had a sore. I used Bag Bomb on both of them, and now they are no more. Oh, Bag Bomb Blues, Bag Bomb Blues, sing it loud and clear. Let's hear it for our favorite sound. Come on, let's shout and cheer. Whoa! Bag Bomb Blues, Bag Bomb Blues, let everybody sing the praises of our super group that fixes everything.
Yeah, I will. I'll show you how to miss them. Come on, come on, come on.
It's tongue-in-cheek, good friends, good golf, and good Bag Bomb.
My ball, do not shoot.
Hi, welcome back. Well, we all know what Bag Bomb is now. 20 years ago, fewer people knew about Bag Bomb, so I'm not sure what happened to that. I didn't actually pursue whether that documentary ever got made. But in the same show, Talking Art, the next portion of that show was actually a photographer who went to Ghana, and he photographed in Ghana, and he talked about his photographs, and then he went he went to Africa. We're going to travel, and the next segment after that we're going to see some more, and we're going to continue around the world. They're all working on the same show, and it's just interesting that we have lots of different things that happen on any one show. So we go from the fun Bag Bomb to some fairly serious stuff in Ghana, looking at the fishermen and looking at some beautiful photographs that he took in Ghana. And later in the show, we're gonna travel to the Middle East and look at the apartheid. And let's see, where else do we travel? We travel all sorts of places. Then we come back to Somerville. We talk about some local events in Somerville. And then we're gonna finish off with a Bobby Watson segment. So that'll be fun. So let's see if we're ready to go to Ghana. We're almost ready, just about. Always a tapes event. So it's always interesting. What I did was I put it on mini DV, and then I put it on the computer, and the computer is waiting for me to be on air before it finishes the DVD they're trying to record off of. So we're just waiting for them to now get the DVD into the tape. So let's roll the tape.
Some of the faces and places. This is West Africa. It's a typical market woman, a Muslim trader. Very typical scene.
When you first went to Africa, what struck you the most?
I think, well, going to Ghana as a first stop, I was struck by my familiarity with the way people felt towards me and me towards them. It was just astounding. I really feel that my ancestors came from Ghana, because
You felt at home right away?
I felt very much at home. That was very, very remarkable. I'd never really traveled outside of the country, outside of maybe Canada. And so to go someplace like that and be immediately sort of accepted, I'd heard some things about, well, you know, would you really sort of blend in and not knowing the languages and so forth, whether you could really sort of feel at home, but I really didn't have any problems like that. This is a shot from a 2-day Muslim wedding that went on in Accra, the Zongo area of Accra in Ghana, which is the capital, Accra. This is from a Homowo festival, a celebration by the Ga people that happens in August every year. They're wearing kente cloth, which is a cloth that is... This is the first point at which I experienced or encountered the orishas. This is Babalu Aye, an orisha that comes out of the Yoruba tradition.
Would you explain to us what the term orisha is?
Orisha is a word for deity, or a mini-god, if you will, in the Yoruba pantheon. There are a series of these deities, or orishas, that have particular domains and are responsible for various aspects of life. And this was 1970 that I saw this particular manifestation of this orisha in a festival. And so later on in Brazil, I saw the same deity in a festival.
This is not, this is from Africa too?
No, this is here.
Okay, I was going to say, where are we now?
What I'm doing is I'm flipping back and forth between Africa and here, and looking at the religious, the musical tradition. This is a slide of Duke Ellington, which was taken in 1972. And
that's so beautiful.
Earlier, we saw a slide of Lionel Hampton and Satchmo on the side of a building in Ghana, so that this sort of cross-cultural influence piece is very much alive.
And very much your subject. That seems to be where you're really focusing.
These are fishermen, and I've done a whole series on fishermen along the Ghana coast, and it's one of the sort of oldest forms of sort of social economic, I guess, glue that keeps people together, and that sort of also coordinates with the Orisha Yemenja, who is responsible for those things that happen in the sea, and whose colors are blue.
That must have been amazing. I see certainly that your interest is both very much in the faces and the people you were meeting, and in the vibrancy of the landscape.
This is that was of the Ot River, one of the largest largest man-made bodies of water in the world, created by the Akasambo Dam. This is one of the forts along the Ghana coast, which was used during the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. There are a whole series of slides here that deal with dungeons and where people were kept during the prior to the Middle Passage in the transatlantic slave system. This is what it looked like in one of those dungeons when people were held. This is the outer view of the Atlantic. This is Cape Coast Castle. These are some kids that I took to Africa with me in 1974 as part of a program that I helped develop when I was working on my social work degree. And we were able to take a group of 15 youngsters to West Africa for 3 weeks.
That must have been amazing for them.
Oh, it was. It was. They still talk about this trip. They're watching other kids play a game, and here they're discussing what was going on. We're moving now into...
Hi, welcome back. That was Reginald Jackson. You know, part of the fun part about watching all these tapes is getting to see the art that other people have made over the years, and a lot of it's very timeless, which is part of the point of our show tonight. Is just the timelessness of much of what we see and what we produce here at SCAT. So the next show we're gonna watch was called, let's see, Truth, Half-Truth, Truth, Half-Truths, and Bald-Faced Lies. It was a series of SPG members telling stories in front of a picture using some green screen technology. So we're going to watch one of the SPG members talk about his adventures being a photographer in Uganda.
I took this photograph in Uganda about 2 years ago, and it's taken in the capital city called Kampala. I didn't think it was a particularly astonishing photograph, but the policeman that arrested me for taking it obviously did. He came up behind me. He was dressed in plain clothes, and he told me that I was under arrest for taking photographs illegally. I'd been in the country for about 3 weeks already and taken a lot of photographs, and nobody had hassled me before. So I didn't really know what to make of it. One thing I thought, maybe this guy wants a little bit of a bribe from me. Maybe he's really not a policeman, and really he just wants to hassle me a little bit so that I'll pay him off and to get out of the whole situation. Well, unfortunately I was wrong. He took me into the police station, which was 3 or 4 blocks away. He took me up 4 flights of stairs to room 415. Central Police Station in Kampala, Uganda. And there I was told that I'd have to write down exactly what I did. They gave me a piece of paper and a pen, and I began to write, and I didn't think that I had to give them much detail, since all I really did was take a photograph, in my mind, something that wasn't really that threatening. When I'd finished, the person that was the arresting officer wrote down what his version of the story, and it took him about 45 minutes to do it. It was very detailed. Took him 3.5, 4 pages to write details like he took one photograph and then turned to the west and took 2 steps down Central Street and took another photograph, and began to scare me that maybe these guys were for real. Well, they took my passport, they looked in my bag, and found that I had 2 cameras, and immediately they said, "You're a spy. You must be working for somebody. Why would a normal tourist who is innocently taking photographs have 2 cameras and have all this film?" And when they looked at my passport, they saw that I was born in South Africa, and for them that was enough. South African guy with a lot of photographic equipment, he must be a spy. And I was a little nervous at this point because nobody knew where I was. And they continued to question me 3-4 hours. It got to be lunchtime, and they said, well, we're going out for lunch, and we really don't want to buy you lunch, so why don't you come back in an hour? And this was a bit of a surprise to me because I thought I'd been arrested. So I headed off, and they knew that I was going to be coming back because they had my cameras and they had my passport, and you really can't go anywhere without them. And so I headed off into town, and I managed to find these people who were on the same train that I was supposed to be on that afternoon. And there were 2 sets of people. There was a German guy who I gave my passport number to, and I said, look, if I'm not back in an hour, go to the American embassy and tell them what's happened. And then another couple that I was to travel with that afternoon was a couple that was on their honeymoon from Sweden. and we discussed it and decided that they would be good people to bring back to the police station with me, since they were this respectable couple, and really all I was this dirty, grubby guy with a lot of camera equipment and a bad passport. So we went back to the police station, and they accompanied me. And the police were very upset that I brought somebody back with me. I think they wanted a bribe. And when I brought these two people, they felt embarrassed, and they were questioning me very, very vigorously. And they said, you know, why did you bring these people? They said, we haven't treated you badly. They said, we haven't even beaten you yet. And he had a little bit of a smile on his face, and although it was a little scary, I sort of figured that was the point where I was going to be let off. They gave me back my camera, they gave me back my film, they gave me back my passport. They let me out about 10 minutes before the train was leaving. I ran down, caught the train, and headed off into rural Uganda.
Hi, welcome back. All sorts of adventures. Well, we're going to travel right now from Africa. Actually, we're going to link ourselves between South Africa and the Middle East. And so the show that we're going to show next was on, actually it was the first show of 1990, 20 years ago and 4 days from now. It's called Apartheid's Ark and the Palestinian Uprising. And it was a conference put together by the Middle East Justice Network. And what they did was they were showing the link between South Africa and Israel, and that they actually have a long-term relationship in terms of politics, in terms of economics. And so we're going to watch that show, the intro to that show, actually.
We're all aware of Archbishop Desmond Tutu's assertion to Jews at a synagogue in New York in February '89 that, quote, if you change the names, the description of what is happening in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank would be a description of what is happening in South Africa. However, according to another South African leader, Maulana Isaac, the situation in occupied Palestine is even worse than in South Africa.
This young girl at that time was 11 months old, but when she was 9 months old, her mother was holding her in her arms in the market, and an Israeli Defense Force soldier shot a canister of rubber bullets. One hit the wall and bounced off and stuck in this 9-month-old girl's eye. They put her in a Jeep, and as they were going, the soldier plucked this bullet out. And because blood started spewing out, then they rushed her to the hospital. Of course, when they got there and wrote up the report, they suggested that this girl had been hit in the eye by a young Palestinian stone. If this is not fascism at its highest degree, then I would suggest to you what is. And so when you see these so-called groups in the United States now which suggest we should not cut off aid to Israel, I say bullshit. If in fact you believe sanctions against the apartheid government of South Africa, then I am not able to determine any differences between the occupied situation of the people in Palestine.
I'm Charlie Tesh. Welcome to Dead Air Live. In October of 1989, NBC News reported that South Africa and Israel, working together, had tested a long-range missile capable of carrying nuclear warheads. What was shocking in this story was not just that the outlaw apartheid government of South Africa, long fighting with its neighbors, was now capable of attacking with nuclear force anywhere in Africa, but that they were aided in that development by the State of Israel. People should not have been surprised. In fact, Israel and South Africa have been close economic, political, and military ties for more than 35 years, including joint development of an atomic bomb in 1979. Because of intense political and economic pressure from Israel and its friends, the relationship between Israel and South Africa is virtually unknown to the American public. But in November of 1989, the Middle East Justice Network held a conference in Boston featuring speakers from around the world talking about that relationship. Tonight we'll have a chance to see some of what was said at that conference and to talk with several of the people who were there. My guests tonight are Hattie Ammer, who was born in Beirut lived in various places around the world, now resides in the United States, and is the national coordinator for the Middle East Justice Network. Welcome, Hattie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Also, Karen. Karen Lang, born in Jamaica, is a journalist and freelance writer in the Boston area, was one of the participants in the conference. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And Nancy Murray, born in West Virginia, is a history professor, has taught in several universities outside the United States, is currently the director of the Middle East Justice Network. Welcome to the show. Hattie, let me ask you, what is the Middle East Justice Network?
Sure, Charlie. Well, the Middle East Justice Network was formed by Americans drawn together about a common concern about our government's role in the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. And really what we do is we monitor events on Capitol Hill, and we mobilize support for an even-handed policy towards Israel and Palestine.
Mm-hmm. All right. We have very little time until we go to our first tape. But Nancy, what were the goals of the organization in putting on this conference?
Well, you mentioned in your introduction that the discussion of the connection between Israel and South Africa has long been off limits in this country. Mm-hmm. But recently, the Palestinian uprising has changed that and made it possible to discuss a whole range of issues which have been publicly shunned. We decided to organize this conference in order to look at the facts behind Archbishop Tutu's statement of the similarities between repression in the West Bank and Gaza and in South Africa. And we also wanted to look at the implications of the Israel-South African link for the anti-apartheid movement here, for a just peace in the Middle East, and for world peace generally. Now, just a few weeks before our conference was due to be held, the NBC Nightly News segment about the nuclear connection between South Africa and Israel was aired, which made our conference very timely indeed. And in the event on November 11th, over 400 people showed up.
Hi, welcome back. So we still have Middle East issues, and people still don't know about the connection between South Africa and Israel. So the current websites, current organizations that you can look at for more information include Americans for Peace Now. Their address is peacenow.org. J Street, which is linked to the national federal government, and trying to get the federal government to look at some of these things, jstreet.org. And Norman Olson has written about Gaza at www.olsonglobal.com at Navigator. So those three websites, we'll try to get them up for you at the end of the show. And let's go to our next. We're going to come local, and we're going to look at Respond and issues of battered women in Somerville.
I think anybody thinks that they're going to be a battered woman, you know, and it's a hard relationship to get out of. It, you know, a lot of people ask, why do battered women stay?
Yeah, I guess that, are there things about a particular woman or group, I mean, that are going to make them more likely, you know, I mean, without sort of pointing the finger at them and saying, well, what's wrong with these women? I don't want to say that, but what is going to cause somebody to stay in an abusive relationship?
Okay.
It's a big question.
It is a big question. I think in general, you know, women tend to be, the biggest fault that a woman has is that she's a professional caretaker. And with this characteristic or this quality, she thinks that she can help somebody else. Batterers tend to be extremely needy people that proclaim to need this woman so badly. And when he is violent or he screws up somehow, he's apologetic and sorry and don't leave me because I really need you and I need help, and this can be a real catch for some women. So you're talking about, I guess the biggest thing is that women are caretakers, and they're very forgiving, and they give so much to other people instead of keeping the focus on themselves. So women with low self-esteem, women that have been abused as children, and I don't want to limit it to just that, because it can happen to any woman.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that by saying, you know, if we describe a certain kind of woman, to say that doesn't mean that it can't happen,
Right.
because that's denying that it can happen to you is
Right.
a mistake.
Right.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add that I think one of the things that we need to remember is basic fear. That if he is threatening to kill her if she leaves him, or to kill her child, or to kill her mother, or something like that, or you know, this is what I did to you now, but if you leave me, just wait till what I do to you, then she thinks twice about that, you know. And I think we always have to remember that fear can overwhelm a woman and paralyze her, you know, so that she can't.
But you know what, I imagine, as you say that, I understand that, but I also hear somebody saying, well, you know, somebody threatening to do that and then doing that is another thing. Like,
there's a statistic nationally of 70% of women who leave an abusive relationship and are found are beaten to the extent that they need medical attention. And that's a huge statistic, you know, to think that 70% of women who leave. Because if you think of battering in terms of control and power, which is what it's all about, the biggest threat to a batterer is that a woman leaves the relationship. And ultimately she knows that. So there really needs to be a safe way to get out, and to, you know, fear can be immobilizing.
So even though, I mean, it is valid for someone to feel afraid if somebody's saying, I will do this to you if you'd make any attempt to change the situation, there's also real evidence that points to the fact that, you know, like you're saying, 70% of the women are found.
And I think if I can add to that, that what happens in these relationships is that the violence escalates. So in the beginning, if they're promised, you know, I'm going to smack you, eventually the smack comes. So if now it's gotten to the point where the violence is so severe and it's come to, if you leave me, I'll kill you, no one else will have you, no one will help you, they pretty much are in the frame of mind that, well, he's gone this far, yeah, he will do that.
He's delivered on his other promises.
That's right.
And I can see what you mentioned about women a lot of times being the caretaker can be problematic, because, I mean, we're not talking, I mean, women are involved with these men whom they care about, whom they love, who they feel love them. And that can be, I mean, it's a paradox, but it's also very real in a lot of these relationships.
Hi, and welcome back. Respond was the first domestic violence organization in New England, and it was the second one nationwide. It was organized in 1974. And in order to, their website is respondinc.org. So if you need to contact them, or you know someone that should contact them, they're still doing their work here in Somerville. The next tape we're going to do is, we're back into politics and national politics. We're going to talk to Noam Chomsky, linguistics professor at MIT. And let's hear what Noam has to say.
Silly people on course. And that's a very standard idea, actually. That's a kind of a leading idea of a good deal of liberal democratic theory. So actually the previous book that a friend and I wrote right before this was called Manufacturing Consent, and we borrowed that term from Walter Lippmann, who's the Dean of American Journalists. And his conception was that the general population are what he called the bewildered herd. And he said we have to protect ourselves, we smart guys have to protect ourselves from the rage and trampling of the bewildered herd.
It reminds me of another term by Aldous Huxley, which was downward transcendence by means of herd intoxication, regarding fascism or fascist ideas.
Yeah, but they're talking about democratic societies.
Yes.
And the idea is that in a totalitarian society, you really don't need that much propaganda, or the propaganda can be relatively crude. And the reason is because you can control the population by force. And in a military-run society, or a feudal society, or a modern totalitarian society, you can have a ministry of truth, which produces obvious propaganda. Everybody knows that it's propaganda, and they can choose to believe it or not choose to believe it as they wish, but they can't do much about it because you've got the bludgeon to beat them with.
Right.
But as a society becomes more free and more democratic, you have to keep the bewildered herd under control in other ways, and the way to do it is through propaganda.
Hi, welcome back. Well, technical difficulties. So we're just, Noam Chomsky, one of the things that he talks about in this thing is the use of the media to control the populace. And it would be interesting to go back now with the whole newspaper realm changing and journalism changing drastically to see where that leads to relative to the concept of the herd. And so he goes on about that and talking about how free journalism really is. And now we have the flip side, which is worrying about how journalism now, everyone can say whatever they want to say and get their little web page up. And is it the integrity of the reporting and still existing? So there's some things, and part of what I wanted to point out today about that was the whole idea of what we looked at 20 years ago are still issues that are issues of culture and society. They don't necessarily go away when we have lots of people. So we're still trying to figure out how to deal with this tape, this DVD, and we're gonna, I don't know what they're doing in there, but they're trying to find something that catches up a little bit. So we are gonna go from the next tape. We're going to come back directly into Somerville. Noam Chomsky is at MIT, so he's local to us, and we have had him on a couple of times on our show.
No.
We're going back to Noam? Okay, we're ready to go back to Noam.
You know, the ideas keep being remodeled and reshaped. In the 20th century, it became just a major industry. In the early part of the 20th century, the public relations industry was created, and it's grown into a huge industry, and it's very frank about what it does. In fact, its leading figure, Edward Bernays, lives right here in Cambridge.
Yes.
He wrote back in the 1920s, I suppose, about what he called the engineering of consent, which he said is the essence of democracy. And he wrote a book called Propaganda, in fact, in which he described the way you have to control people's thinking. Controlling the public mind is the concern of the advertising industry, and has been from its origins, puts lots of money and thought into their main concern, actually, is to create a public climate of support for business rule and business profitability, to break labor unions, to break the working class culture that at one time existed, and so on.
Well, how would the informed public jeopardize that or threaten that?
How would it jeopardize that? Well, you ask all sorts of questions, like, why do we need bosses, for example? Why can't we run things ourselves? Why should there be rich people, living in mansions while other people are homeless in the streets? Why should some people have access to health care and others starve and not have access to it? Why should we pour money into creating stealth bombers instead of using it for schools and houses? All kinds of questions immediately come to mind, and the bewildered herd are likely to ask them.
Hi, welcome back. We're sort of flipping back between DVD and the tape. So it's a little confusing. I didn't use the tape to edit off of. We're doing our general oops. But the next show, so that was Noam Chomsky, and Chomsky.info is how you would get a hold of him, and he's got a website that's got lots of his letters and his biography and some of his lectures and lots of information on books he's written and all of that. So we're going to go now to Open Air Circus in Somerville. Open Air Circus is a summer program for kids where they learn tumbling, they learn stilt walking, and 20 years ago they were learning hip-hop dancing. We're going to watch some girls learn some hip-hop steps and do a little hip-hop dancing.
Don't stop like the hand of time. Quick draw, find your own way to stay. The time will come one day. Why do people choose
Hello.
This is Nahim Allah.
Yes, it is. It's Nahim Allah, the one and only. Hi, kids.
Do you want to take them through something?
Yeah, you guys want to do a little something? Come on, let's do a little something.
Okay.
Do you remember a little bit of the old routine?
Did it.
You just did it? I got a new thing I want you to try. It goes like this. Can you do that? You're going 1, 2. Okay? Let's try. You remember the leg. You're going leg up, spin. All right? Let's do it again. Let me see it. Now get ready. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom, boom. Too soon. Try it again. Look at me. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me see it again. 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's try it again. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom. You're getting it, girls. You're getting it. Let's try it like this. Let's do this. We're gonna go boom, boom. Okay, can you do that? Can you do that? Let's see it. Let's see. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to add one little move to that so we can do it for finale. We're going to go boom, boom, bam, bam. Like that. Okay? Very simple. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Shake. And bow.
Hey. Nahim, what do you like about teaching these kids?
What I like about teaching kids is that I get to pass on some of the stuff that I know, and it's going to last longer because they're kids. And part of teaching kids, it keeps you alive. You know, the kids are the future and their life. And to be able to give them something that I know and something that I appreciate and work hard at, it gives me a good feeling inside because I know the kids will pass it on. And things live a lot longer with kids. You know, they're much more creative because they might take that move and I might come back and see that move going to a spin triple and spin on their head and jump up and down, and you know, kids do that. But I enjoy teaching kids. I've been working with kids all my life.
I've seen you work very energetically and in a very disciplined way with the kids. Sometimes you're quite tough with them. Tell us about that.
Well, I believe a child, you should work very hard with them. Part of their training, if a child could chew bubble gum, walk up and down, be naughty, be crazy, cry, spat, but smile, and then do Michael Jackson and everybody else, then you could teach a child to do certain things. Discipline is something that a child needs. And as a captain of a ship, I will always go down with my ship, and I will always roll my sleeves up and work just as hard to show them that I could do it too. And you got to be an example. Part of you being an example, it enables kids to say, well, I could do it too, you know, and they'll look up to that, and they'll learn from that.
What other kind of kids have you worked with?
Oh, I worked with kids from the age of 3 to 21, and then I've worked with adults. I work with all types of kids, you know, black, white, purple, green, I don't care who they are, they're kids.
Are you coming back to this circus next year?
There's a great possibility. You guys want me to come back?
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Okay. Can you tell?
Hi, and welcome back. That's a show that we did 20 years ago about the open air circus in Somerville. It still runs, and you can still check the website, openair.org, openaircircus.org, and enroll your child in a summer program to learn all sorts of fun physical activities. So we're going to go on now, and we're going to look at a Larry Yeager review show, where he looked at, in 1990, he looked at shows from the 80s. So we're going to look at this tape, which has shows from 80 to 83, just very cut segments.
It's next year.
There's a great possibility. You guys want me to come back?
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Okay. Can you tell?
On the Section 8,
and there's a long waiting list. I think there's close to 1,000 people looking for subsidized housing in the city, and there's a scarcity of it. And I'm way down on the list, and I applied 2 years ago. I would like to stay in the same building where I am. I don't want to move out.
Yes, it is. It's happening all over the city. I hear from all my friends. I hear from a lot of elderly people. My grandmother's friends, they're all worried. They all think they're going to be thrown out of Somerville. And these people are coming in, these professional people are taking over our buildings because they can pay $400 a month or $500 a month. And the elderly can't pay that. Why should we move out of Somerville? We were brought up here. We live here. Why should people come in from other cities just because they make better money than we do and take over our houses? And where are we going to go? We're going to have nowhere to go. There's no place for people to go that are evicted. There's no vacancies in Somerville. There's no place to go.
These are the issues that Mr. Bakey don't want to face and is trying to divert your attention with his ridiculous accusations.
Excuse me, could I just point out, sir, that he read that from a card? He'll go back. Mr. Hattie, how did you happen to have that answer on a card?
I did anticipate this.
Oh, you mean you're clairvoyant? You can tell what calls are coming in?
Wait. Is there a
because
reaction
they
to
did
that?
endorse
Okay.
me. One of your last pieces of literature did say that it was a socialist newspaper. They may very well be. It does say
Oh,
it.
okay, but you will admit that it may very well be, even though it says on their masthead that they are.
We got to cut it off. We got another call to go to. You don't agree, but let's go on so we can get another call.
A couple of days ago, there was an air attack on that camp, and it happened that one of the bombs left without exploded, and the kids, they were playing with this bomb. Then it exploded in between of them, between 6 of them. It killed them instantly.
Art, to me, my definition of art includes a large ingredient of fantasy. It has to, otherwise it becomes very banal and mundane and matter-of-factual, and we have so many more sophisticated and more efficient machines to record factuality and actuality. So I think that it's art's purpose and function to use the real world as a scaffold to hang on one's dreams or wishes or aspirations or whatever.
You just get so many different feelings. I mean, from being mad to being sad, and then sometimes when she comes up to visit with us and eat, and she seems to have a good time, and things are going okay, and she's not acting too strange. Then you feel happy and okay, but it's never the same. You just kind of never know what's going to happen.
It's like having a newborn baby.
Yeah, it's like reversing roles. I mean, I'm becoming my mother's mother, which it's kind of a weird feeling.
A nuclear freeze still leaves us with enough arms to destroy civilization. We have to ground down to zero. We have to keep the protests going. We have to make this meeting only the beginning. It cost $1 billion for 36,000 soldiers, whereas again that same money could put 72,000 people back to work. It cost $1 billion of MX missiles for 14,000 workers. That same $1 billion would give you 45,000 health workers to heal, to cure, to help the sick. What the hell kind of a society is this? We don't need it. We don't want it. It stinks. And on behalf of the machinists, on behalf of other workers, tell them to stick it up their ass. Thank you very much.
Television. I'm sick of it.
Television.
Hey,
Mr. General Public, do you realize that we got a generation here of staring eyes? The women never bother getting housework done. They just sit around gawking at television. The kiddies never run and playing out of door. On top of that, they never reading books no more. You ask them who's the father of our countryman, they say was either Walt Disney or Ed Sullivan. Oh, television, television, I'm sick from looking on television. I got the weak in the eyes, weak in the head likewise, from sitting and looking on television. The burglar comes sneaking in and breaks the latch, while Grandma, she is looking on the wrestling match. She throws him on the floor, although she's 90 years old. She says, I got him with a step-over toe hold. I turn on Elvis Presley and my daughter scream. I fear she have a nervous breakdown cause of him. I wonder why he wiggle-waggle to the beat. As a boy, he must have had a loose bicycle seat. Oh, television, television, I'm sick from looking on television. I got a weak in the eyes, weak in the head likewise, from sitting and looking on television.
Hi, welcome back to Dead Air Live. This is Jean Flanagan, and the cast of Dead Air Live and the Somerville Producers Group you just watched was from the early 1980s. Charlie Tesh would be the sole remaining member from that group. Everyone else has moved on in their lives to all sorts of different things. So we're going to go now to a tape that is a more traditional Dead Air Live show. That is Bobby Watson's Fright Fest. It was the Halloween show from 1989. And let's go see what Bobby Watson's up to tonight.
He loves to listen to me talk, and this next tape is about people on the telephone. What a coincidence. That's just great. Let's watch it.
we get response from people